Video on Mount Adams has spiked for the first time in about 4 decades. Well, Mount St. Helens has been a little more active than you may expect this year. Since February 1st, there have been 350 earthquakes taking place on the mountain. Alaska and volcanoes go hand in hand, but it's been decades since we've seen a significant eruption here in South Central. They look eternal, monolithic, unmoving. But these aren't just mountains. They're born from chaos, forged by fire, shaped by pressure and upheaval as the earth cracked and shifted for millions of years. Now, that ancient energy is stirring again. Along the Pacific edge of North America lies the Ring of Fire, a vast crescent of geological unrest. Stretched along its spine are some of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. From Alaska's frozen summits to California's sun-scorched deserts, the ground is shifting, and scientists are no longer whispering warnings. So, what happens when the land we rely on decides to erupt? The sudden one. Augustine Volcano. Rising from the waters of Cook Inlet, just 180 miles from Anchorage, Augustine feels distant, until it doesn't. When it erupted in 2006, it grounded flights and dusted nearby towns in ash. But in early 2025, Augustine began stirring again. Steam vents grew hotter, earthquake swarms rattled its eastern flank, and sulfur dioxide levels spiked. GPS sensors now show the ground deforming, swelling subtly as magma pushes upward. Seismologists are watching with unease. Augustine is notorious for erupting with little to no warning. Its sudden outbursts can send ash columns miles into the sky and trigger dangerous pyroclastic flows. One moment it simmers, the next it explodes. Will the first sign come after it's already too late? The downwind danger, Mount Spur. Across the inlet from Anchorage, Mount Spur has slept since its last eruption in 1992, when it sent ash clouds as far as 1,000 miles and temporarily shut down Alaska's busiest airport. But the giant is stirring once again. In late 2023, satellite thermal imagery began picking up growing heat anomalies beneath Spur's summit crater. By early 2024, the USGS raised the alert level to yellow, citing minor seismic swarms and gas emissions increasing in intensity. Now, scientists believe magma could be moving beneath the surface. The threat isn't just explosive, it's directional. Anchorage, home to nearly 300,000 people, sits directly downwind. If Spur erupts, ashfall could contaminate water supplies, damage power infrastructure, and choke air filters in minutes. Jet engines could fail mid-flight, and the state's critical air corridor, linking remote towns to vital supplies, could be brought to a halt. Spur doesn't just threaten the land, it threatens Alaska's lifelines. Will the skies go dark before we're ready? The wild card. Mount Redoubt. Redoubt is a wild card. Its 2009 eruption spanned months and caused over $160 million in damage, disrupting air traffic and sending thick ash over south-central Alaska. But now it may be building towards something new and more complex. A 2024 seismic tomography study revealed a web of branching magma chambers beneath the volcano, suggesting that Redoubt's plumbing system is evolving. These new pathways could allow magma to rise unexpectedly or erupt from multiple vents. And with glacial ice clinging to its steep slopes, even a moderate eruption could trigger devastating lahars, fast-moving mud flows that rush down river valleys toward communities below. Scientists are racing to understand these changes. Is Redoubt rewriting its rulebook? And if so, how do we respond before nature plays its next hand? The crumbling giant, Mount Meager. Mount Meager's name belies its destructive potential. Tucked deep in British Columbia's coast mountains, it was the site of Canada's largest explosive eruption 2,400 years ago, an event that blanketed the region in ash and left traces as far away as Alberta. Today, signs of instability are mounting again. Deep, low-frequency earthquakes have begun to rumble beneath the surface, while new steam vents dot the landscape. Rock slides are becoming more frequent, chipping away at the flanks of a mountain already weakened by centuries of glacial erosion. But there's a new threat: climate change. As permafrost thaws and ice retreats, once solid slopes are turning to sludge. Scientists fear that instead of pressure from below, collapse from above might be the trigger. A sudden landslide could expose hot magma chambers or block river systems, creating deadly outburst floods. A major eruption or structural failure could bury entire valleys, reroute rivers, and send ash and debris surging hundreds of kilometers. Is Mount Meager ticking toward disaster, not because it's building up, but because it's falling apart? The ice volcano. Mount Garibaldi. Just north of Vancouver, Garibaldi looms over British Columbia like a sleeping giant. But this one sleeps on ice. Perched atop thick glacial layers, Garibaldi is what geologists call an ice volcano, and that makes it dangerously unstable. In 2024, high-resolution LiDAR scans revealed troubling signs: mid-slope heat patches, subtle surface warping, and new venting on the western side. Scientists now suspect magma is rising beneath its icebound base, weakening the ground above. As the glacier melts from below, massive landslides or sudden outburst floods become real possibilities, even before an eruption. If magma meets ice in the wrong way, it could cause explosive steam-driven blasts and chaotic debris flows. What happens when a volcano built on melting ice begins to break apart? And are nearby communities ready for the fallout? The frozen threat. Mount Baker. Baker is quiet, but deceptively so. Towering above northwest Washington, it holds more glacial ice than almost any other volcano in the Cascade Range, surpassed only by Mount Rainier. But that ice, so majestic, so permanent, could become a deadly force if awakened. In 2024, scientists noticed troubling signs. Hydrogen sulfide levels surged from fumaroles near the summit, and low-frequency seismic tremors suggested magma was on the move beneath the surface. If Baker erupts, the heat could melt vast amounts of glacial ice in minutes, triggering lahars, massive volcanic mudflows that would roar down its flanks into the nooks and jagged valleys. These torrents of rock, water, and ash could obliterate everything in their path: roads, farmlands, homes, entire communities. Some projections show that towns like Deming and even parts of Bellingham could be in the path. And yet, how many residents know the risk beneath their feet? How many realize they live not beside the mountain, but within its timeline? One shift, one plume, and the landscape and lives could be reshaped forever. The Hidden Bomb, Glacier Peak. It's Washington's most explosive volcano, and its most hidden. Tucked away in the remote North Cascades, Glacier Peak has long been shrouded in mystery, its rumblings barely detected by the sparse network of sensors monitoring the area. In 2023, radar imaging revealed a growing melt zone beneath its southern glacier, a subtle but ominous sign of unrest. With few towns nearby, limited monitoring systems, and minimal public awareness, the volcano's slow signals might easily go unnoticed, until it's too late. Its explosive potential is enormous, capable of producing ash plumes and pyroclastic surges that could disrupt air traffic and ecosystems far beyond its range. Borders as scientists struggle with data gaps and logistical challenges in this rugged terrain, the looming threat of a sudden catastrophic eruption grows ever more real. Will the next disaster be the one no one saw coming? The ice-wrapped killer. Mount Rainier is a towering giant crowned with an icy mantle so vast that it holds enough snow and ice to bury Seattle in mud if it were to collapse, but the threat isn't just in the eruption itself. Late in 2024, scientists monitoring Rainier detected alarming signs warming beneath the glaciers, subtle but persistent, that hinted at instability within its frozen layers. Minor seismic tremors followed a warning from deep beneath the surface. A steam burst here, a tremor there, each one a potential spark to trigger a deadly lahar, a massive volcanic mudflow that could surge through valleys with little to no warning. These flows would rip through the land, sweeping away everything in their path, destroying roads, homes, and infrastructure in seconds. Unlike the slow buildup of firewater, the force of lahar kills swiftly, without hesitation, and with thousands of people living in the valleys below. The threat is both immediate and invisible. What's more dangerous than firewater, that kills without warning, racing downhill with the power to reshape everything in its path? The restless crater Mount St. Helens. Mount St. Helens forever altered the Pacific Northwest. When it erupted in 1980, 57 people lost their lives, and the landscape was completely erased, replaced by a scarred, barren expanse. The volcano oozed lava and belched an explosion that was heard up to 45 meters away. Blast took place about 1 o'clock this afternoon. It was the first volcanic eruption in this country since 1914, but that wasn't the end of its fury between 2004 and 2008. The volcano stirred again with minor eruptions and seismic activity, signaling that it wasn't done now. In 2024, new radar data shows the crater floor rising, a clear sign that magma is slowly but surely making its return beneath the surface. The signs are unmistakable. Pressure is building, and it's only a matter of time before the mountain erupts once more. The question isn't if it's when. Each new tremor, each slight bulge of the earth beneath the crater brings us closer to the inevitable. Will the next eruption mirror the catastrophic force of 1980, or will it be even more destructive, sending ash and debris further across the country as scientists monitor the restless volcano? One thing is clear: it's just a matter of waiting for the inevitable eruption to come. The sleeping giant Mount Adams rising nearly as high as Mount Rainier. Mount Adams commands attention, despite its long slumber often overshadowed by its more notorious neighbors. It quietly dominates the skyline of the Cascades in 2023. Scientists observed subtle yet significant changes on its southern flank. Gas emissions increased, and the mountain exhibited gentle inflation. These signs hint that magma might be gathering beneath its surface, nudging the volcano away from centuries of dormancy. Although Mount Adams has not erupted in over 1,000 years, experts caution that it is far from extinct. Its vast cone, draped in ancient forests and set against rugged terrain, now demands closer scrutiny as the mountain appears to be stretching its limbs after a long sleep. The potential hazards for nearby communities could grow, urging researchers to ramp up monitoring efforts. Is this quiet giant preparing to awaken the glacier watcher? Mount Hood stands tall and serene, a majestic snow-capped beacon for skiers, hikers, and tourists towering over the city of Portland. It's a symbol of beauty, adventure, and the natural wonders of Oregon. But beneath this calm exterior, pressure is quietly building. In 2023, volcanologists noticed a troubling pattern of gas emissions, carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, seeping from fractures near the summit. These gas levels match those typically seen when magma begins refilling underground chambers. As if this weren't enough, Hood is wrapped in thick glaciers, making it particularly dangerous. A minor eruption could melt massive amounts of ice, triggering lahars, fast-moving mudflows that could race down into the populated valleys below, flooding communities and infrastructure in an instant. These deadly surges could travel with devastating speed, reaching towns like Government Camp or Portland itself. With its volcanic history, Mount Hood has erupted in the past, and the signs suggest it could erupt again. The big question is Oregon's most iconic peak quietly counting down to its next eruption, waiting for the right moment to awaken from its dormant state? The mystery peak. Mount Jefferson is one of the Cascades' most remote and enigmatic volcanoes. Standing silent and unassuming in Oregon's wilderness, it hasn't erupted in over 15,000 years, and for most, it's been easy to forget its existence amidst the towering giants like Mount Hood and Mount Rainier. but recent signs suggest that this dormant giant may not be finished just yet. In 2024, groundwater studies near Jefferson revealed disturbing anomalies, strange gases. Carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide were leaking from the subsurface. These gases, typically associated with volcanic activity, sent alarms through the scientific community. Shallow heat readings followed, adding another layer of mystery to the puzzle. Some researchers now suspect that magma is migrating beneath Jefferson, possibly linking it to nearby volcanic systems like Mount Hood and Mount St. Helens. This could mean that if Mount Jefferson awakens, it won't be an isolated event, but part of a larger volcanic response across the region. The question now is, if this mountain stirs, will we have enough time to detect the warning? Before it's too late, could Jefferson's next eruption catch us off guard, with little time to prepare for the catastrophic consequences? The rising trio Three Sisters, North Middle, and Southeaster dominate central Oregon skyline. Yet it's Southeaster that's raising the most alarms, keeping our eye on the environment. Geologists are closely watching Oregon's South volcano for activity. Southeaster is not too far from Bend. Experts noticed a subtle increase in the rate of uplift of the ground on Monday. This was detected about 3 miles west of the volcano. Geologists tell us that the uplift is caused by small pulses of magma building up roughly 4 miles below the ground surface. Since 2000, satellite imagery has recorded steady ground uplift and estimated 40 million cubic meters of magma gradually pushing upward beneath its slopes. In 2024, the tremors intensified noticeably. Seismologists observed a distinct rhythm, a pulsing cadence that's far from random, suggesting a deeper, organized movement of magma. This escalating activity comes at a time when nearby towns like Bend and Sun River are rapidly expanding, increasing the number of people and infrastructure in potential harm's way. The convergence of rising magma and a growing population creates a pressing dilemma: how to balance economic development with the critical need for advanced monitoring and effective emergency planning. The stark reality remains what happens when geological forces meet human progress. The region now faces an urgent call to rethink its preparedness and ensure that the warning signs aren't overlooked as the mountain quietly counts down to its next dramatic act, the lake that watches Crater Lake. It looks like a postcard. Blue water, steep Calera walls, tranquil skies, but Crater Lake is no ordinary lake. It's the flooded remains of Mount Mazama, a supervolcano that blew apart 7,700 years ago. In 2023, sonar scans revealed bulging domes on the lakebed, indicators of magma pressure building beneath the surface. Subtle tremors around Wizard Island suggest hydrothermal activity is increasing. Is Mazama slowly preparing for its second act? The quiet flame, Mount McLaughlin. This forest-ringed peak hasn't erupted in 30,000 years, but new evidence says it might not be finished. In 2023, thermal flyovers spotted faint heat emissions near the summit. Satellite images showed changes in snowmelt patterns, signs of warming ground beneath. McLaughlin is officially classified as dormant, but dormant doesn't mean dead. Could this quiet peak be writing the first line of a brand new chapter? The Sleeping Shield, Medicine Lake. Unlike its steep Cascade cousins, Medicine Lake is broad and low, more like Hawaii than Washington. But don't let the shape fool you, it's massive and active. In 2023, electromagnetic scans revealed a huge reservoir of partially molten rock beneath the surface, stretching for miles. The volcano sits near active faults. A moderate earthquake could disturb this magma system, perhaps catastrophically. Are we walking a fault line over a powder keg? The symmetrical giant, Mount Shasta. A giant among giants, Mount Shasta rises over 14,000 feet into the northern California sky. It's known for its symmetry, but its system is anything but simple. In 2024, cosmic ray muon scans exposed branching magma chambers, deeper and shallower than previously thought. That means more paths, more variables, more risk. An eruption here would paralyze major highways, disrupt flights, and impact thousands in nearby towns. And Shasta? It doesn't need to shout. It only needs to whisper. The Whispering Peak. Lassen Peak. Lassen last erupted in 1915, sending ash 30,000 feet high. It was the last U.S. eruption before Mount St. Helens, and it left a scar. Today, the land around Lassen still breathes, boiling mud pots, steaming vents, and sulfur clouds. But in 2023, volcanic earthquakes returned. Deep, slow, and long. These aren't normal quakes. They signal magma squeezing through tight spaces. After a century of silence, is Lassen ready to speak again? The sleeping supervolcano. Long Valley. This is no ordinary volcano. Long Valley is a supervolcano, one of the largest in the world. Its last massive eruption, 760,000 years ago, coated the West in ash for decades. Scientists believed the system was cooling, but in 2024, the crust began to swell. GPS stations shifted, earthquake swarms fluttered beneath the surface, gas vents hissed like never before. Is the Earth correcting a long-held assumption? Is Long Valley waking up again? The Desert Cauldron. Coso Field. Hidden in the high desert near a geothermal plant and military testing zones, Coso simmers quietly. But quiet doesn't mean safe. In 2023, researchers found chemical shifts in hot springs, traces of magmatic fluids rising to the surface. The area's energy extraction may be disrupting underground pressure balances. Could we be disturbing something we don't yet fully understand? The Bubbling Border. Salton Buttes. Near the Mexico border, the ground splits and bubbles. The Salton Buttes, formed just 1,800 years ago, were long considered extinct. But satellite radar in 2024 detected ground uplift west of the domes. CO2 emissions tripled, and the buttes lie just miles from the southern end of the San Andreas Fault. Could shaking Earth trigger rising fire? From ice to ash, north to south, the ring is awakening. From the Arctic waters of Alaska to the desert heat of Southern California, these volcanoes are not asleep. They're restless, watching, changing. And scientists now believe we're entering a new phase, an age of heightened volcanic activity across the Pacific spine, a time when the quiet ones may speak and the loud ones may scream. Which volcano keeps you up at night? Like if you're fascinated by Earth's deep forces. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next eruption may already be underway.